Hello there.
Hello!
Friends, lovers, thank you for joining us at this unusual time, 4 o'clock on a Sunday.
Yay.
Why are we here at 4 o'clock on a Sunday?
Because I'm going to take you out tonight.
This girl's going to take me out tonight. We're going to talk about that. Why would we let that interfere with our usual show schedule? Compelling, good reasons that you are going to want to hear about. Thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir. I'm Robert Nasir. This, even more important, is Amy Nasir.
Hello.
And we are glad you are here. In fact, we're especially glad for those of you who are here in the chat. Let us know what's on your mind. I'm not sure how many of y'all are out there because just before the show, we was listening to Yaron Brook.
We was.
And he didn't stop. He started 2 hours ago and he's still going. So we'll see. We'll see who is on the chat today on an unusual 4 p.m. start time on Sunday. Today is Sunday, January 30th, unless you're listening to the podcast later. I think we're going to have a lot of people doing the later thing. But today is Sunday, January 30th, 2022, the 30th day of the year with just 335 days left to make this your best day. Best day. What am I'm thinking about tonight? Your best year yet. 335 days until 2023. The future is practically here, sitting in your lap, whining, crying like a newborn baby. There are 329 days left until Christmas, so plenty of time to get off your ass and do your Christmas shopping. But here's the thing, just 15 days until Valentine's Day.
Oh, well.
Yes, and that means 43 days until White Day.
Oh, very good.
The response to Valentine's Day. That's right. By that Japanese tradition, it's the gals. It's like a Sadie Hawkins dance. The gals should be going out there.
Yeah,
you know who you are.
You'll have to tell me what you want for White Day.
Well,
White Day.
You'll tell me what you want for White Day. White Day is the day I'm going to return your Valentine's favors. Remember, it was the girls who on Valentine's Day would, try to woo the men.
Oh,
and then in White Day is my day to respond to that and say, hey, thank you for what you did for me on Valentine's Day. Or maybe Valentine's night. I guess we'll see how that goes.
I thought it was kind of equally reciprocated, but...
In America, it certainly is. Yeah. We don't think of Valentine's Day as a gendered holiday. Right. Especially nowadays. Who knows what gender anybody is anyway. Also, on this date, January 30th, it was the radio debut of The Lone Ranger. And where did that take place? Why am I getting a big kick out of this being the anniversary? Because it took place on WXYZ Radio Detroit. And we are broadcasting, internet casting, podcasting from Motown, the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan, with the stirring notes of the William Tell Overture and the shout of, "Hi-yo, Silver, away!" The Lone Ranger debuts on Detroit's WXYZ radio station, the creation of station owner George Trendle and writer Fran Stryker. And that's interesting to me. You own a radio station. I don't just want to own a station. I want to create content. That's a great idea. Mm-hmm. The owner and a writer created the Masked Rider of the Plains, which became one of the most popular and enduring Western heroes of the 20th century, joined by his trusty steed Silver and Native American scout Tonto. The Lone Ranger battled Western outlaws and Native Americans. Trendle and Stryker created an American version of the masked swashbuckler, made popular by silent movie actors like Douglas Fairbanks in The Mark of Zorro, arming their hero with a revolver rather than a sword. The Lone Ranger never smoked, or swore, or drank alcohol, and he used grammatically correct speech free of slang, and never shot to kill.
It's very courteous of him.
That's mighty nice. Historical accuracy notwithstanding, the radio program was an instant hit. The Lone Ranger made a seemingly effortless transition from radio to motion pictures and television. The televised version of The Lone Ranger, starring Clayton Moore as the Masked Man, became ABC's first big hit of the early 1950s, remaining on the air until 1957. Very cool.
I used to play the William Tell Overture, with my fingers, just like... I don't know if you can hear that.
I can hear it. Every time I hear your fingers hit the table, I hear the notes too.
Yeah, it's a wonderful rhythm, and for sure.
What's fun about the Lone Ranger is he conducted himself by a strict moral code.
Yes.
Which was written by Stryker, the owner of the radio station. His moral code included, "I believe that to have a friend, a man must be one. All men are created equal, and everyone has within himself the power to make this a better world. God put firewood out there, but every man must gather and light it himself. In being prepared physically, mentally, and morally to fight when necessary, to fight for what is right. A man must make the most of the equipment he has. And on like that. It's not a perfect moral code, but then he was a radio station owner, not a philosopher. I like it. I like it quite a lot. So yes, on this date, the radio debut of the Lone Ranger. Also,
yeah, we also actually a question from Jim. Did you talk about George Seaton? I guess there was a radio show for the Lone Ranger, and yeah.
I did not talk about George Seaton. I'm trying to think if I have that. I may have that in my notes here. I am skimming, otherwise I could go on for an hour about the Lone Ranger.
I'm Googling it, Jim.
Oh, okay. There is a link, incidentally, to the Wikipedia article, which I'm sure includes that information in the show notes. It'll be posted immediately following the show. There's also some other good information there, which we will talk about, because this is also the anniversary of the rooftop concert. Now, those of you who have seen the recent Disney, it's funny, I wanted to say Apple TV, but of course it's not Apple TV, it's Apple Core, the production company that the Beatles created. Apple Core, in conjunction with Disney, put out Get Back, Peter Johnson's update to the Let It Be sessions. And it climaxes the whole last half of the last third of this 6-hour production is the rooftop concert, the last live concert that the Beatles ever played. And this is the anniversary. It happened on January 30th. So gotta love that, because the richest drummer in the UK, he may be the richest drummer in the world. I have to check those stats. Ringo Starr.
Yes.
Of course, from the rooftop concert. Well, the second richest drummer. Who is the second richest drummer in the UK? Take a moment to think about it. This would be a star not only of a progressive rock band, but also a pop rock solo star, but also a writer for films and soundtracks, including Disney films. See how it all ties together. But also a star in movies and stage plays. I guess that could make him the second richest drummer in the world. Phil Collins, happy 72nd birthday to the drummer of Genesis, and of course his own solo projects.
Yeah, I've got the stats.
You've got the stats. All right.
Okay, number 1 is Ringo Starr. Number 2 is Lars Ulrich.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he a drummer?
That's what it says.
Okay. Oh, go on.
Larry Mullen Jr. from U2. Oh my God. David Grohl. Yep, we know him.
Makes sense.
And number 5 is Phil Collins.
Okay, well, since Dave Grohl's in there, what I'm seeing is that this is worldwide. So no wonder Phil Collins is number 5 worldwide, because I'm looking at the UK stats.
And they're all within the $300 million range.
That's true. Once you've got $250 million in the bank, I guess having $255 million in the bank isn't that much different. So happy birthday, happy 72nd birthday to Phil Collins. It's really striking that Phil Collins was so prolific, that he was a songwriter. He actually wrote songs. He wasn't even the producer. He did everything. He was not just, that pop star from the 80s or that drummer from Genesis, but I originally knew him as that drummer from Genesis. That tells you something about my age. There's a link, in fact, in the show notes to a video called, it's a short one, 10, 11 minutes, The Genius of Phil Collins, and this is hosted by a drummer. So it's all about his drumming chops. But it's interesting that he then went on to do so many things that his drums are almost an afterthought. He was not a good drummer. He was a great drummer. When people like Neil Peart would compliment the chops of somebody like Phil Collins, this was not just, he was a pop star and he was a pretty good drummer. He was amazing at just about everything he did. I shouldn't say that in the past tense. Happily, Phil Collins' 72nd birthday, he's still around. In fact, he's still touring. He can't even move around as well as he used to. His son, Nick, is playing drums in his band, as well as the drummer that they've used for years in Genesis when Phil was up front singing. But he's sitting in a chair. He's sitting in a chair on stage. And you think, who the hell does this guy think he is, Robert Fripp? But no, if you see the video clips of their concerts, he still puts on a great show. Yes. The man is amazing. 72 years old. And yes, the second wealthiest UK drummer, and apparently the 5th wealthiest drummer in the world. So yeah, the wiki is in there as well for all the information about Phil Collins. Incidentally, there was a fun Phil Collins picture on Facebook. If you are friends with or have access to the Facebook account of Emilio Martinez, who is the bass player, the touring bass player for Yngwie Malmsteen, he did post pictures of Phil Collins as well. As for the holidays,
yes,
we always like to figure out, well, what are the holidays today? Sometimes they're quirky. Well, they're extra quirky today because the only two holidays that of the list I could take anything out of were, first of all, and this one you can act on right away because it is Yodel for Your Neighbors Day. In this regard, what I recommend is you put on a copy of the song Hocus Pocus by the Dutch band Focus, of course. Yes, there is a Dutch band. It's one of those songs where you probably don't know the name of it, but if you hear it, you'd be like, oh, that song. So the Dutch band is called Focus. The name of the song is Hocus Pocus, and that will be your yodeling opportunity. You put on this song, you've got to yodel. Incidentally, I've linked to the studio track in the show notes, but once you've listened to the studio track, you'll see a link on YouTube for the live version. And if you think the studio version was crazy and almost impossible to play, either vocally or on guitar or on keyboards or whistling, because that's a part of this too, listen to the live version. Twice as fast, almost insanely impossible to imagine.
That's amazing.
That somebody could actually do that. Also, the second holiday, the other holiday, the only other one I'm going to mention, it is National Escape Day. Maybe it's National Escape Day. Well,
Escape.
I have no idea.
Listen to the old radio show Escape.
Okay.
Or
was that a show?
Or just Get Out of Town, maybe.
Well, this seems especially ridiculous because the pages I've got explaining what National Escape Day is, the celebrations only go back to 2016. So I want to talk about, is this really a holiday? But they do say when life becomes a treadmill and you find yourself running to nowhere, it's best to just get off it for some time. This is the chief idea behind National Escape Day. At some stage, everyone feels overwhelmed by the pressures of life. Bills, performance, exams, expectations, deliverables, deadlines, etc. run us ragged at times. While the pressing nature of life today is inescapable, it would do you plenty of good to put your feet up for a day. National Escape Day is your day. Now, again, this is a holiday that's only been around for 6 years, apparently. And it was very dismissive. But then I thought, we've talked about pattern interrupts. Mm-hmm. The things that you do to take you out of your current state, let you see what you're doing in the moment a little more objectively, or to break your habits, or to just make you a little more mindful or conscious of what's going on. We talked about resets. Every now and then you've got to reset. You've got to say, well, here's what I've been doing. Here's what I've been building up to. I need to take a moment, reset that, start over again, just to have a better view of what I'm doing. We talked about memento mori. Remember that your life is finite. Someday you will die, and you've only got so much time to do everything. And I thought, well, National Escape Day, this could be a good day for pattern interrupts. It could be a good day for that reset. So yes, maybe it is a good day to walk away for a bit and say, let me look at what I'm really doing here.
Or do your podcast a couple hours early, which, by the way, is a one-off. We've got Steve over on the YouTube chat, and yes.
Yes. This is not normally at 4 p.m. on Eastern Time on Sundays. It's usually at 6 p.m. Eastern on Sundays.
Yes, very rare that we do this. But Robert, we're going to go on an adventure tonight.
We are going to go on an adventure, and that's what we're going to talk about. First of all, what are we listening to? Well, this week, let me bring up my note on this because this is important. And out of order, what the heck? But this week, yesterday on the Yaron Brook Show, which I have been listening to. So this is the Yaron Brook Show of yesterday. So for those listening to the podcast, January 29th was the show. He said this in answer to a gentleman who's often in our chat. One of our, gadfly? Or, no, just somebody who pokes us a bit to keep us in line. I'll put it that way.
A taskmaster?
Taskmaster, no, a little more, he challenges us.
Okay.
He keeps us from getting too comfortable in our beliefs.
Good.
especially if you're familiar with Ayn Rand and objectivism and the various groups in objectivism, and if you feel really comfortable being part of one of those groups, Scott's the kind of guy who's going to remind you, hey, you got to keep your eyes open. You got to be aware of what's going on out there. And he asked Yaron a very good question, in response to which Yaron said this. This is Yaron speaking. He said, now if I was really sharp, I would have clipped the audio and put up, but I can just read it. He said, I'm going to give a talk at Ocon this year in Washington, D.C. in the summer. And the theme of the talk is going to be why I am still optimistic. Why, in spite of all the bad, in spite of all the problems, in spite of the horror, in spite of the evil, this is Yaron Brook speaking, I am still optimistic. And there I will talk about that.
Good.
He went on to say, but in preparation for that, I will, over episodes of the Yaron Brook Show from now until then, I will be talking about different aspects of that. Now, why, when I talk about, well, what are we listening to, do I mention that? And the answer is, and I'm so glad Scott asked him about that, we've talked about optimism on this show. We talked about why the future is bright, why we have every reason to believe that Steven Pinker in his hypothesis is correct. Everything not only is getting better, but everything will continue to get better. And there will be downsides. There's going to be inflation, for example, over the next year or 2 or 5. There's going to be wars. There's going to be cataclysms. There's going to be bad stuff happen. But the trend line overall is positive, and not just a little bit positive, but crazy, exponentially positive. And we've talked about that on the show. And I absolutely agree. And I think Steven Pinker is 100% correct. Perhaps 102% correct. But Yaron Brook, during the last few years, yeah. I'm tempted to say over the course of the previous presidential administration, but that probably makes it a little too political. Yaron Brook has said that his optimism was quashed. Mm-hmm. He lost his optimism. He used to be an optimism guy. Why objectivism will win the day. Why go to some of his past podcasts. They're great. And then it got muted for a while. So I can't tell you just how cheerful I got, how charming I thought it was, how optimistic I thought it was to hear Yaron Brook say the theme of his Ocon talk is going to be why I am still optimistic. So I am looking forward to that. I think y'all should be looking forward to that. And that's why, despite all of the politics, despite the fact that the economy is about to go into the toilet like Peter Schiff has been warning us for the last 12 years. If you warn about bad things long enough, eventually they're going to happen. That economic disaster that we were going to have next year for the last 12 years may finally be coming. And, of course, these days, economic disaster means, oh, gee, my stocks haven't been going up for a month or two. We're not getting as much progress as I wanted, but it may be worse than that for a while. But that's why I still care about things like date night.
Yes, date night.
Living a life, doing things, making things happen, and, consistent with the holiday of National Escape Day.
Yes.
Get out there and do things.
Do it.
So, Mrs. Nasir, Amy, said to me a few days ago, have we got anything going on Saturday night? I said, no, I don't think so. She said, good, don't plan anything, we're going to do something. Well, what are we going to do? It's a surprise. And then a couple nights ago, I guess she was looking over her plans. Oh, it's not Saturday, it's Sunday. So she said, well, Sunday night is when we're going to do something. I'm like, great. Oh, wait, we got our show.
Whoops.
Can we reschedule it? Then I thought, well, we get so much love from you. I'm pointing my finger at the camera. People listening on the podcast later are like, I can't see him pointing his finger. We get so much love from you that I knew if we did the show 2 hours early, you would still come around. And I'm looking in the chat and I'm seeing the messages come in, and I appreciate that. So yeah, let's do that. So tonight, we talked about date night before. You should have date nights. We try to have date nights. And we're going to talk about how to make that actually like something you can actually do. No, great, let's do this. Let's do the podcast a couple hours early. It's date night.
What's that over there on that?
Oh, yes. This is what you should plan. This is I meant to have the package handy too because I can't remember what they're called.
They're called Majul dates.
Majul. Moderno. Majul. This is a Majerno date. Majul date. Like my jewels. Look at my jewels. And so it is date night.
I think that's how it's pronounced.
I've always thought dates were horrible. They look like mutant.
Yeah, they look like shrunken heads.
Oh, I was thinking they looked like mutant, like radiation. What's the word I'm looking for?
Pods.
Like somebody buried some uranium next to a grapevine.
It's shriveled fruit poop.
So it's like an oversized raisin. Except I like raisins, so it's all good.
No,
it is date
great.
night, so that's why.
Dates are great.
That's why we had to start at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific Time, 9 o'clock UK Time. I'm not going to do all 24 time zones or however. There's actually more than 24 because some time zone strips have their own, like Arizona, which stays on Arizona time. They don't change for DST. So it's why I had to start the show a couple hours early because Amy said, I want to take you out. And she didn't sing it, but she could have. And maybe next time she will. It is date night. And so the future is once again bright. Confirmed by Yarenbrook. It is date night.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about that. In fact...
Well, before we do, I want to... So Scott in the chat on YouTube,
Good.
He says, I remember when you did a clubhouse on the way to the airport from Ocon. Maybe you could live stream dinner.
Yes. Yes, we could.
It could be ASMR. ASMR, is that how you say it? Anyway, and then we can like
I think it's AMSR.
However, and we could just start chewing our food.
I don't think the AMSR folks like chewing food.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they like the sound of like cutting paper with scissors or typing with a manual typewriter.
Like hearing the big smack of the cheeks as you digest food.
Okay, well, obviously there's a menu of those things that I'm sure people enjoy.
Anyway, so Linda says Medjool dates are milkshakes are divine. Yeah, I actually use Medjool dates in my smoothies. You know, with the spinach and the fruit and the soy milk and however.
That's true. Amy makes a smoothie and she puts dates in it.
It's the best sweetener because it has fiber.
Now these are not pitted. Do you take the pits out?
Yeah, you take the pits out. You take the little nubs on the top off, and because that's like it's like eating a piece of wood. But yeah, you want to take the pits out for sure. And Jennifer likes dates and oatmeal. That's wonderful.
To me, somebody who doesn't eat dates, when you say, well, obviously you don't eat this part of it, or obviously you don't eat that part of it, to me it's like, obviously you don't eat dates. So
and Jim has a question and a comment here. He says, test those dates on a monkey before you eat them. Indiana Jones learned that lesson in time.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
And then he also asks... who the person named Scott was on the Yarenbrook show? Is it Scott Halloran or
no?
Okay, somebody else.
It's Scott who is in the chat right now.
Oh, over on YouTube. The YouTube chat.
Yes.
How cool is that?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, and so here we go. Yes.
So. Real quick, because I was just wrapping up the what are we listening to? The other thing I was listening to was An Exercise in Philosophical Detection by James Valliant. Now, why would I listen to An Exercise in Philosophical Detection by James Stevens Valliant on the Ayn Rand Center UK channel? And the answer is he had co-hosts on that show.
Oh, well.
And his co-host for this is a Leonard Peikoff lecture that he was analyzing. His co-hosts for An Exercise in Philosophical Detection were Amy and Robert Nasir.
Well, then, they're so cool, aren't they?
If you missed that one, you could help get that show count up by watching it later on tonight. Link is in the show notes.
It was really good. So much fun. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. Everyone should be a philosophical detective. Put that on your resume. Put that on your business card because it is just the best thing to do ever.
Easy. Piece of cake and money. If it's on your resume, it is money in the bank.
Yeah.
So in getting ready to talk about date night, and I have to talk about date night because this is crazy. Looking up resources for this, and it turns out everything that I wanted, in fact, I threw away the other links that I had, everything that I wanted, I found in a list by, of all places, Good Housekeeping.
Oh. Oh, how nice.
Now, famously, there's the good housekeeping meme that floats around of good housekeeping's tips for women, how to attract and keep a mate from the 1950s. And there's some question how much of this is accurate. It seems like it was exaggerated. It was set up by the Onion or the Babylon Bee. You should make sure there's a warm meal for your husband when he gets home from work. Make sure his comfortable slippers are where he can get to them. Make sure that blah, 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 blah. But this is great, actually. Great, Good Housekeeping's 100 best romantic date ideas. Now, I'm not going to read 100 ideas because the whole purpose of this list, as I have recommended before, is not to give you a list of 100 things you've got to do, but just to give you a resource. Amy and I, we ran into this week. I've mislaid my list of television shows and films we want to watch. You need that list. If you don't have that written down or maybe on your computer, but where you can reach it in the moment, well, it happened to me. I got to find the list. It's in a pile of papers in my kitchen. We've all got ideas, but if you're carrying them around in your head,
that's true.
they are almost worse than useless because they actually get in the way of you having on paper something you can reach for and say, we got this list. Let's do this thing next. Well, I don't really want to do that one. Well, we'll skip to the next, but you don't skip too far. You can give yourself a skip limit. Well, we won't skip more than 3 things. You can veto this, veto this, veto this. Not in the mood for that, but now we've got to watch this thing.
What they say in New Orleans, do what you wanna.
because one of the least romantic things you can say to your partner, and to heck with romance, one of the least friendly things you can say just to a friend of yours is, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Where do you want to eat? I don't know. Where do you want to eat? I'm not judging you.
I'm kidding.
I am putting this out there because this is me. I am as prone to this error and probably a little more than most folks. So, 100 date night ideas. Link is in the show notes. You could probably Google and find it too. Just know that it's on goodhousekeeping.com. And you think, well, good housekeeping is all old-fashioned and fuddy-duddy, and how good could this list be? And I thought, well, maybe I'll get some ideas there. But I was surprised. Just how good this is. So I'm just going to read a couple that I've highlighted here.
Let's do it.
So, romantic, and leave out romantic, because if you're not in a romance, this works for friends. It works for families. Some of them don't, but most of them do. It works for your kids. This is great. Number 1, try a new restaurant. Now, what do you mean try a new restaurant? That's kind of obvious. That's kind of easy. How many of you have a favorite restaurant, 5 maybe, second favorite restaurants, maybe a handful of 6 or 10 restaurants that you always go to and never go anywhere else, unless you're meeting up with friends or somebody who has their own favorites and, they maybe get you to try something you haven't tried before. I love this. Just love this. And this is not all just my thinking. This article really is this good. They write, if you've got your favorite spots menu just about memorized, how many of you have got? I certainly do. If you've got your favorite spots menu just about memorized, check out someplace new. Pretend you're restaurant critics and pick apart the food.
Ooh.
Not your partner, for a change.
Aww.
Number 2, play tourist in your hometown.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that, actually. That's been cool.
Yeah. When was the last time you took advantage of the things everyone always wants to see when they visit?
Right.
Probably the last time you had out-of-town guests. Take an afternoon or an evening and hit up your local landmarks or must-see attractions like you're seeing them with fresh eyes. And, heck, maybe you are. Maybe you've never been to those places. Love that, love that, love that.
Yep.
I'm going to skip forward a little bit here. Go on a picnic. We own a picnic basket.
We do, a picnic basket.
But how often do we actually go on a picnic? Maybe once a year? Maybe twice?
Yeah, we need to do that more.
We did that some during COVID. We took picnic foods like to the beach, for example. Incidentally, go to the beach is also on here.
Yes.
Hit the beach, which is a challenge in Michigan. Obviously, you have to go in the summertime, and beaches can be a bit of a drive, but it's all worth it. Take a hike. Again, if it's not something that you normally do, you would think, I don't do that. It's just a walk around. You don't really get anywhere. When we actually get out in the woods, it changes. It's the strangest thing because you're usually walking in a circle. You're not going anywhere. I've got things to do. I don't have time for walking in circles. It's amazing to go to the woods and take a hike. Yeah. It changes your state, and it changes your sense of possibility, and it clears your mind, and it does amazing things. Love, love, love. There's so many good ideas. Even build a campfire. Build a campfire.
Yeah, we can do that. We've got a little
we got a fire pit.
in the
In
backyard.
fact, we've got the Christmas tree.
Yeah, we need to burn the Christmas tree.
We've got to build the Christmas pyre. This is a habit we just started last year or the year before.
Yeah.
Is you take down your Christmas tree and you leave it out by the curb and then they pick it up. Except that's boring. Who wants to do
Who
that?
wants to do that?
It turns out that pine trees, evergreens, they burn like fireworks. They burn like crazy.
Oh, it just goes poof.
It's
It is
outrageous.
giant, like it's sort of like Die Hard in that one scene in the elevator.
Yeah, boom. But yes, build a campfire.
Oh my gosh, it's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you want to do the same tradition, it will ward off any evil spirits that may exist. Although luckily they don't. So, but you're good either way. So what you do is you take a branch off of your Christmas tree and you keep it for next year. And then that way, while you're burning your current Christmas tree, you can also burn a branch of last year's Christmas tree. And then somehow magically, in the world of the primacy of consciousness, it will make it so that you'll have a great year. So we still need to do that.
Well, it does, because it takes you back.
Yes.
And you get that connection with the past.
That's very true.
It's a ritual.
Thank
and
you.
rituals can be silly, but they can also be powerful.
They can be very fun.
Skipping forward here, explore a museum. Now, we had fallen into a routine, this going back a few years, but normally we're like, yeah, let's go to a museum. Okay, we'll go to the DIA, the Detroit Institute of Arts. Well, aren't there other museums around here? Well, yeah, but that's the best one. So we go to the best one. And at some point, Amy looks around, she finds there's an art museum in Ann Arbor, just a relatively small one. We're like, well, yeah, the stuff there won't be as good. But she takes us out there, and it was great.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, where else could we go? And we drive down to Toledo, Ohio. It turns out the art museum in Toledo, Ohio is magnificent, and in different ways than the Detroit Institute of Arts, which is still the greatest. It's still the best. It doesn't matter. It's different. So yes, if you are museumed out, if you go to your same one or two museums that you love, shake it up. Find a different museum. Drive out to Flint, Michigan, where we did an art tour with the art expert Luke Travers. That was a great opportunity. Again, a place we would not have thought of. So, see a comedy show, declutter together. Now, there's something we need to do more of. And the challenge with decluttering is that...
This thing I hate.
The challenge with decluttering is knowing how much to declutter. Because for a lot of people, the amount of stuff you've got to declutter can't be done in a day.
No.
Certainly can't be done in a couple hours. So it's really hard to say, well, we're going to declutter for 2 hours this afternoon, or this Sunday, or this evening, or whatever works for you. But there's enormous value in that. Just say, okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna budget 2 hours.
Yeah.
And yes, maybe it feels like it'll be a waste because after 2 hours we won't have done that much. You'd be surprised how much you get done in 2 hours and what you reclaim, and that feeling of, oh, this isn't impossible because now I see what it looks like to get through it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, guess who we have in the Facebook chat is our good friend, Ginny B. Yay!
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you for being here with us. And with regard to the burning of the Christmas tree, she says, that's how you keep Krampus from coming.
That's how you keep the Krampus from coming. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Well, good to have you in the chat. I see Andrea's in the chat, too.
Hello.
And it is good to see you here. I know that you're facing challenges, and like we all are, and it is good to see you in the house.
Yes.
Yeah, so great ideas. And again, the great thing about why would you need this list? You could think of these things, but the difference is, like writing things down, it externalizes it, it makes it objective, it puts it out in the world. When I look at a list like this and it says fly a kite, we've got kites.
We have kites.
We have bought kites and string and waiting for a windy day, and we never really had the perfect day to go fly a kite. But by putting it on this list and then keeping this list on a clipboard where I can refer to it, we're going to make that happen.
That's correct.
Love the idea. I've talked before, and I've talked at length about writing things down, getting things out of your head and out on paper. And again, that's the value of a list like this.
Right.
Definitely look it up. It's a very good list, but this could just be a starter for your own list, or it could be the list you print up. It's certainly what I did. Put it on a clipboard, use it as a resource. It's a whole different thing when I look at a list like this and it says rent a kayak or canoe. Well, that's something we've done, but then we thought about doing it again and we're like, okay, well, when we have time, someday, someday never comes. Today isn't someday. Today is today. Make it happen. And by having it on a list like this, and goofy stuff like take a dollar menu date. Go to a fast food restaurant and order everything on the dollar menu. That's ridiculous. But it's also kind of hilarious. That could even be fun. Love, love, love it. So, yes,
and
Amy's taking me out today.
Right, and before we go any further, I just want to say, we did our show Life on Earth last Thursday, and we talked about romance. And, we were talking about dating and all of this, and we talked about Luther Vandross and his wonderful song, Take You Out, which is truly the best, and everyone should study the lyrics. And so I had this idea of, we should be romantic with ourselves. Because oftentimes when you're talking about how do you be romantic, how do you be more charming, well, what you do is you start with yourself. You start with your own relationship with your own self, your own internal dialogue. And so I've been actually waking up this week thinking to myself, how can I be more romantic to Amy? How can I be more charming to Amy?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really put me in a great frame of mind to make my day a lot better. And anyway, so I thought I'd just throw that little tip out there, because when you're romantic with yourself and you're charming with yourself, that comes across to other people, and that actually makes you more attractive, which we'll talk about in a few minutes here, I think. In my experiences of 2 nights ago.
Well, it's a great tip, and it's not one that I've shared, and it's certainly not original with me. But one of the tips to sustaining romance, especially in a long-term relationship, in a marriage, later in life if you find romance is waning, is make the first move. And not in terms of making a pass at your partner, although I guess that's a part of it too. But sometimes we fall into a rut of, well, my partner's not that interested in, not necessarily even romance, but, going out at night, doing things, dancing, playing music, whatever the thing is. They're not that interested, and every time I try, they're just not that interested, and it really feels like work to get them to do those things. And what Amy's point makes clear is that you're not romancing your partner as a sacrifice. Romance is something you can do for yourself. And then your partner has the opportunity to join in. And you think, well, but they're not going to join in, or they didn't join in when I tried it last time. That is not a reason to stop trying.
Right.
And you keep trying, and you keep trying until you get the result.
Yes.
And if you never get the result, at least you're going to have something to talk about. I've been trying to dress nicer and do more things and be interested in stuff, and I notice you're not really on board with that. And if they tell you, whatever they tell you, now you've got information to work with. Oh, well, I feel really overwhelmed and I'm kind of tired all the time. And, oh, I'm sorry you feel that way. What could we do to, is there anything I could do to help with that? It's amazing how much you can put yourself out there without it being a self-sacrifice if you're doing it as an end in itself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yeah, and that's certainly something that I've struggled with in my life in terms of, getting myself in the right frame of mind. And, I'm you wouldn't know to look at me or to hear me, but I'm a moper by nature.
A moper?
I'm a moper. You may be, you've seen it a little bit. Robert knows.
I've seen you on down days.
Yeah.
I've had down days.
That's true too.
Don't we all?
Too. Yes. But that's usually my natural tendency, is that I like to be cozy, cocooned, and moping and all that.
No.
But it's not something that I like that much, obviously, because it's one of those things where if I go out of focus, that's sort of like where I go, which honestly is a place where a lot of people go. And it's something that you have to consciously, push yourself out of. Break out of that shell.
One of the great things about sharing your challenges is that other people find out, oh, I'm not alone in that. Other people have challenges. Oh. And that sometimes by itself can be part of the solution, is just to know, oh yeah, I'm not alone in this. Absolutely. So, what's going on in the chat here before I jump forward here?
Well, we've got Linda. Hey there, Mom. Love you.
Cordair.com.
Cordair.com.
If you're looking for art, and even if you're not looking for art, you're just looking to put a smile on your face. Right. My gosh, Cordair, CORDAIR.com.
There's a lot of inspiration that you can get from art just looking online or however, and say, oh, that's from the 1800s. How lovely that was, But there are artists out there right now, today, actually painting beautiful works of art and sculpting beautiful works of art. And Quent and Linda Cordair have cornered the market on it, basically. They've got it. And so go to their website, cordair.com, and put a smile on your face, a pep in your step, and you'll see that kind of romantic view of life.
And I see the art goddess Linda says, I use the notes feature on my phone to keep track of all the great ideas. And they're always with you that way. Exactly.
And she also says, she's talking about romantic realism comes to mind with regard to being romantic.
Yeah, incidentally, in our list of 100 ideas here, make yourself a spa day.
Yes.
Well, Petya in the chat says, even before I mentioned it, spa days for self-romance. That's right. Now, if you've got a really big tub, which unfortunately I don't, but if you've got a really big tub, that can also be a romance for two, but yes.
Yeah, and Jim says, hiking can be a date. I feel fortunate being in Washington where I'm practically surrounded by hiking trails. Now I just have to find me a date. We're going to be talking about this in a minute, Jim.
Are we?
And I'm hoping to give folks out there a little bit of inspiration with regard to dating. Because, yeah. And he says, let's see. Oh, yeah. So anyway, we were talking about, what do you want to do when asking your partner and thinking that might be romantic. Well, it might not actually be romantic if that's all you say. I don't know. What do you want to do? Yep. And Jenny B says, yes, love starts with loving yourself. And Petya has a 21-year-old kite in storage that she's going to fly.
That's a serious kite. We tend to buy the disposable kites.
And over on YouTube,
thin plastic or paper.
Yeah, Lauren says that she likes boat rentals and picnic baskets are great dates.
Excellent.
Boat rentals. And then she says fries and pies have always been our date food for scenic drives in the fall. Just as long as it's not some insane number of calories. But yeah. And and Jim says, I don't think any idea in the history of philosophy has been more damaging to people's hopes for romantic love than the idea that self-sacrifice is a basic element of love in any form.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, this idea that, well, if I keep giving and giving and giving, that's what's going to make romance happen. And at the same time, it's like, if I keep giving and giving and giving, I'm going to exhaust myself, make myself miserable.
It needs to be win-win. Win-win. It's two wins.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned this, the topic of dating and finding romance. We talked about that on Thursday, so anybody who missed our Thursday show, Life on Earth, should take a look at that.
Yeah, that's on
I need to add that to the show notes.
Yeah, that's on the Ayn Rand Center UK channel on YouTube that you can find that. And now, I'd like to tell my story about 2 nights ago.
Yes, please.
So I went out with a friend to a small club where they had a couple of heavy metal concerts, tribute bands for Motorhead and and Ozzy Osbourne / Black Sabbath. And they're very good tribute bands if you like that kind of music. I'm a bit lukewarm on Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. A couple songs I really like, but and Motorhead, there's a few songs that I like, and that's a little bit more up my alley. But yeah. Anyway, so we went, and it was just me and her. And now I had my I just gotta tell you, I had my ring on, my left hand ring finger. This means, or should mean, hi, I'm married.
We need to get you an updated band to go with it.
Oh, okay. So it needs to be a bit more substantial, huh?
Well,
Okay.
or more traditional.
Yeah, that's true.
It's,
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
could
but it's
that
the
could just
only
be an
ring I
engagement
wear.
ring.
This is the only ring that I wear. So yeah, you're right. But I'm. It was kind of interesting. I felt like, I look the way that I look on the outside, and apparently I'm attractive, I guess. But honestly, on the inside, the way that I felt was. Do you remember the one? Lillian, I think, or Lilith, or something like that from Cheers. This is the one that she's a psychiatrist. She's very severe. She looks kind of like Olive Oil meets Professor McGonagall, and she's got her hair like
That's hot.
she's got her hair like way like put back into this extremely tight bun, and she's very analytical, very pointed, and very stiff. And that's exactly how I saw myself at the time in this bar where all these people were sitting around me drinking and having shots and drinking and listening to loud heavy metal music. And
I'm sure that made you stand out.
oh my God. Yeah, I did stand out, actually. And so there were a number of men who were trying to hit on me. And haven't
It
had
has
that
to be.
in a while.
It has to be said. I was not with Amy.
Yeah,
that
Robert
night.
was not with me, and my friend, she had some other friends that she was talking with who I didn't know. So I was just sitting there having fun with me, and
looking approachable and unguarded.
I guess. So anyway, it was kind of a strange situation because these men were, they were no prime cuts, I'll tell you that. They were not. And it was kind of, some of them were, more age appropriate, some were a lot less age appropriate, going in either way. It was very strange. It was the strangest thing ever. And so I sat there kind of psychoanalyzing and kind of like philosophically detecting these people's views of life. I was asking them questions about, what they did in their spare time, and I was being friendly and everything like that. This one guy who wouldn't let up, I just, I was trying to be as, just friendly but yet, I am so not interested. So, anyway, it was interesting because I introspected on this, and I felt like, I hate to say this.
But that's not going to stop you.
I felt like Florence Henderson administering medicine to the soul damaged.
Oh, you mean Florence Nightingale?
Oh yeah, Florence Nightingale. Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Yes, the nurse. The historical luminary nurse there. And anyway, I just felt. Oh, you've got a timer in your pocket.
No, I'm just glad to see you.
Golly. So anyway, it was very interesting, but and I was trying to enjoy myself, and I was trying to find some spark of soul, some spark of passion, something in these people around me, and I really came up short. And I'm sure people were very nice and everything like that, but it's like it was kind of dreary. But maybe some other people were nice, but I thought to myself, if these men who were there in this bar had the courage to come up to me, then there is hope for all of the more intellectual, more philosophical types of men to do the same.
All you need to do is be in a bar where
Oh,
instead of on stage there being a heavy metal band, there is a philosopher on stage giving a reading.
No. There could be a jazz band.
I'm exaggerating a little bit to make the point.
Yeah.
What you want to do is be where the people you'd be interested would be. Mm-hmm. This came up on Thursday. I may have actually read part of my Facebook post from a couple of years ago. where I wrote, don't wait. The alternative isn't wait for somebody to find you. This was about an article that said, don't wait for somebody to find you. In fact, that essay said, life passes by so quickly. Years feel like months. Hours feel like minutes. Changes occur constantly. One moment you're here, you're alive, you're breathing. The next moment, it's all gone. Etc. I wrote, damn right. So get to the library or get to the gym or sign up for skills, knowledge, management, or other professional training. Attend the meetups for topics that interest you, activities you're interested in. Join that dance class, attend that programmer's monthly dinner. Are your resources tight? Do things that cost very little, or take a second job so you can afford to attend that protest, that political rally, that film conference, that OCon or TOSCon. And sure, go to bars and clubs, but really those are kind of the worst. The
Yes,
only
they
thing you
are.
have in common with the average bar patron is 46 chromosomes and a willingness to drink alcohol.
Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh.
And maybe
Yeah.
an appreciation for the same bands or DJs, but at least you're there in person. That's something. I could go on, but my whole point is, and I've given this advice before, we talked about it before, is be the person you want to meet out in the world doing the things that person does or would do. Live that life. If you're looking for a soulmate, a partner, somebody who you can spend time with, be who you are, but be it big and loud and in places where other versions of you, of the opposite sex, or whatever your gender preference is, will be doing those things.
Yeah. So Jim is asking, and we think we're going to end up going over a little bit because I have
Oh, we've got a wrap. We've got a date tonight.
I know, but it's okay. We have some time. And so Jim says, well, actually, let me say, Ginny B says, golly, I know that feeling. I can't go to a bar with administering to somebody.
Without administering
Yeah,
to somebody.
without administering to someone.
Yes.
And Jim says, well, what was that again? Administering medicine to the soul damaged? And so, yeah, it's I felt like I was Florence Nightingale administering medicine to the soul damaged. And to elaborate about that, because he's like, can you elaborate? Well, what I mean by that is I was asking these guys who are, a couple of them at least, who are hitting on me, what are you passionate about in life? I asked just that, what are you passionate about in life?
Oh, she used the word passion. That's hot.
And
I hope you got something better than that.
And oh my gosh, one guy, he said that he just recently bought himself a really state-of-the-art lazy boy chair. I kid you not. I mean, really? Really? And he's like, yeah, I call it my throne. And I'm thinking, and he was the same guy who was telling me, yeah, I want to go traveling really soon. And I'm like, you better book that plane tomorrow because your track record is really poor.
I want to travel. I want to live large. And so the climax of my value pursuit is an easy chair.
I know. And these were guys, they reminded, it's a longer story than this, but they reminded me of my dad. That's a longer story, who ended up just having a heart condition, sitting himself into a chair and not getting up, and then using a walker for the rest of his life. And that's what I see for these people. I mean, it's really sad. So it was like I was trying to give them medicine by encouraging their values, and they just kind of looked at me like, well, maybe someday. I'm like, oh my God.
Hey, as you said, you're prone to moping too. We've all been there.
But I don't mope in front of the public.
No, we don't go out in order to mope. Maybe they know that about themselves. Actually, I was about to make a joke, but I just realized it's not a joke. It's absolutely true. They know this about themselves, that they're not very ambitious. What they do want is a comfortable evening, sitting in their easy chair, maybe with their mate sitting over on the couch, watching Cheers and having a beer, and there's nothing wrong with that. Although I don't think that's
And the art goddess
the best way to find that.
reminded me of it's Lilith Sternen Crane, played by Bebe Neuwirth, who was in Cheers. Lilith was the psychologist, and all I could do was sit there like, it's like I thought to myself, I don't even understand. You don't even know how much information about your life you're giving me about right now. I mean, you don't even understand how much.
Well, again, maybe he does, because again, he's looking for the kind of gal who would be enthusiastic about that. Who would say, "Oh, you've made your home nice and comfortable, and you have a good time there, and you seem like the kind of person I'd want to spend time."
Yeah, one guy asked me.
That gal is out there.
He asked me if I liked fishing.
Some people like fishing. Hey, I'm not going to laugh too much about that, because that's kind of the point I'm making is for every man out there is a woman.
I know,
for
you're right.
every
you're
woman
right.
out there,
you're
there
right.
is
you're
a
right.
man. If you're thinking, I can't find it, somebody out there needs exactly what you've got, more than one.
I'll tell you what. These guys had courage enough to go and talk to me, Lilith, who psychoanalyzes them. Well, they don't actually know that, but they had the courage to actually approach me and talk to me. And some of them were actually engaging, kept answering my questions, even though they just, the content of what we were talking about just became more depressing. They still kept persevering.
That's right, because you don't know until you know.
Right.
They don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And if you were looking for romance, you don't know until you know. You got to find out. You got to be out there. That's the whole point. You got to be out there.
That is correct. And I'll be right back.
Uh-oh. Is our timer going out? See, we're running over. We're running over time. But this just got too interesting.
Yes, it did. And there's one more thing that I want to talk about.
Oh, okay. So Amy's going to come back on the set here. And,
Hello. Oh, okay. So with that, yes, have courage, because you never know. And men who are philosophical out there, you are going to be so much more interesting to women who are intellectual like you are. And so don't sell yourself short, and don't assume the worst.
Yes. And as I say, the concretes aren't that specific, because, Linda says, I love fishing. Quent does not. So you don't know. You put it out there. It's like, you cast that line, and you don't know when you reel it back in what's going to come in. These guys are just finding out. It's all good. And Jenny says, I almost always end up teaching about the value of rational selfishness. Here in the South, at least one person will end up talking about their obligations and expected self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
We talk about unearned guilt a lot, too. Maybe it's the Bible
You know
belt.
what? You're absolutely right. Because that's actually one of the themes that I found in talking with these guys in the bar was the one guy, he said that he owned a Harley, and he's in this bicycle club, and they dress up like in these bicycle gear, and they look real intimidating and everything. And then he's like, kind of apologetically, he says, but we do it for charity.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
I do what I really love, but it helps other people, so it's okay. But it's one of the challenges is that
oh my gosh,
different people are functioning from different philosophical
premises. I gotta say, I'm sure, Jenny B, I'm sure you're a heck of a lot more patient than I am, but it was very strange.
Oh, you're pretty patient.
I am. I just don't show my extreme aggravation.
That's right. You only think you're impatient because you know all the self-talk that's going on while you're tolerating these gentlemen's attempt to make conversation.
Oh, yeah.
So before I wrap up, what else did you want to cover here? Because it sounds like you had something else in mind.
Yeah. So this is another thing in the category of being romantic with yourself and your partner. And well, I don't know how long ago we got these, but these are the best self-intimacy card prompts. If you want to get into conversations that you don't necessarily talk about every day with your partner, or maybe you do, but and maybe you need a little kick in the butt to.
Well, a lot of objectivists are familiar with the concept of sentence stems.
Yeah.
Starter sentences to get you started for brainstorming. Like, if what I do next is what really matters, I will And then you finish the sentence. So what kind of cards have you got
I just
under the
picked
best
something-
selves intimacy?
I picked something completely at random, and I did not prepare for this. So
Now, I suggested you prepare for this ahead of time. If you're going to show these cards, make sure you pick out a few ahead of time that'll work well. But she said, no. I'm just going to go with it. So what came out?
This is an example. Not that we're going to actually talk about this right now, but
Okay, what does your card say?
who do you regret sleeping with?
Who do you regret sleeping with? Am I supposed to give a name or describe the situation? Or... I don't think I could do either one of those without giving a lot of context.
I know. That's why I'm saying that's we just don't have time to answer that. So let me try one more. Let's see. Oh, what did your past relationships teach you about love and partnership?
What not to do? No, just kidding.
You know, the thing that I learned most about my previous partnerships,
What did you learn most from your previous partnerships?
that I am, despite what I received in reciprocation, that I am very lovable, and I know this about myself, and that I really enjoy being, lovable and praising and bringing out the best in people. I like doing that, and that's really fun for me. And so I've always, no matter what schlub I was in a relationship with, and this completely excludes Robert here, who is my hero.
I'm a unique schlub.
No matter who I was with, I was always having some kind of romantic fun. Because honestly, I was with myself and I made it the best that it could have been. And so.
Well, I just looked up on my handy dandy bit of technology here. Mm-hmm. You can actually look up this deck at bestself.co.co.
Nice.
The intimacy deck. Oh, that was not cheap. But if you use even a fraction of what's in there, it will well be worth the $25 you spent on it. I don't have that in the show notes. Maybe I'll remember to add it when I go to post to those, bestself.co. I've actually purchased their journals before.
Yeah.
So they have all sorts of good stuff on that website.
Exactly.
Well, it is date night. Again, that's
Yes.
why we have got to wrap up early. Because Amy's taking me out. And
That's
she made it a
right.
surprise. She wouldn't even tell me what it was except, oh, wait, it's on Sunday night, so you got to have your show early. Well, here we are. We're wrapping up early. And yet, all of you in the chat, this is so cool that y'all followed us here to the 4 o'clock spot. Thank you for that. My homework for the week, because we always have home for the week, it says, continue with your 3 good things plan. Oh, and plan episode 100. Today, right now,
That's
Sunday,
right.
January 30th is episode 99.
99.
Yeah, we really should have done a Barbara Feldon tribute. 99. It is episode 99. Next Sunday at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time will be episode 100.
100!
And
If you want to support what we're doing, please go to robertnasir.com and give us a tip or become a Patreon, and we will love you forever, because we have put out the content. It'll be our 100th episode, and we need your support.
Yeah, if you count our preview episode, this would be 100, but not to get into that. Next week will be our 100th episode.
Yes.
And I've been brainstorming some great ideas for it, but I have not actually written the episode yet. So if you have any ideas for things you would like to see included in episode 100, let us know, either in the chat or at the 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir Facebook group. Link to that is at robertnasir.com as well. And finally, my Post-it note for the week. My Post-it note for the week repeats a message I gave last week. And it's a long one, so I wrote it on these big, new 3x3-inch Post-it note pads that I bought. Failing to plan is planning to fail. Planning is planning for success. You see why that had to go on a really big Post-it note. Failing to plan is planning to fail. We've all heard that before, but planning is planning for success. Why is that the Post-it note of the week? Because if you're going to have a date night, you should plan it. Oh, it's Tuesday night or Friday night or whatever our date night is, and I haven't thought of anything yet. Hey, that's okay if you missed planning, but isn't it even better if you plan ahead and say, oh yeah, we're going to go to that New Orleans style restaurant in Royal Oak, or oh yeah, we're going to go to that other little museum that we've never stopped by, or oh yeah, we're going to do that silly dollar menu date night over at, pick your poison, Arby's or McDonald's or whatever your favorite restaurant is that has a budget menu. Or whatever the thing is, go to that Good Housekeeping list. If you're stuck for ideas, look at those 100, again, really cool ideas, and pick one, because planning is planning for success, but failing to plan is planning for failure. Make that happen. Put up that Post-it note like I do. Put it up on your office wall or on your bathroom mirror, wherever you will see it a few times during the week. So it will remind you to do the thing. And thank you for joining us.
Yes,
it is
thank
date
you.
night. We appreciate having this date with you.
Hooray!
Doesn't that sound nice? Your date with Destiny. Who's Destiny? I don't know. Are you going out with Destiny or am I? So yes, thank you for joining us. As always, I will post to the show notes links to all the stuff we talked about, and maybe one or two that we didn't, right at my Facebook page, facebook.com/Robert Nasir. Links to that at my homepage, robertnasir.com. Follow those links, go to the stuff, look at the video about Phil Collins, read up on his storied career, listen to that Yaron Brooks show where he talked about his optimism. This is going to be good between here, now, and Ocon 2022. Mm-hmm. And we will join you Thursday at 5 o'clock on the ARC UK channel, and here again next Sunday for episode 100.
Woo!
Facebook.com/Robert Nasir, YouTube.com/Robert Nasir. You know where to go. You know when to be there. We will be looking for you. And as always, thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming early.
Yes, thank you.
That sounded wrong. Thank you for being here early. We are so glad that you are here. We would not do this but for the fact that you are here watching it.
Yes.
Or those of you who are streaming it after the fact. I know a few of you are doing that too on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. I mentioned Spotify Podcasts. Ooh, there's some controversy there. Still love you, Neil Young. Still love you, Joni Mitchell, even if you're doing the wrong thing. There's a little nuance that more of us could use. So thank you for joining us. As always, we wish you success. We wish you happiness for this week that's going to be a great week. We know it is for you too. And as always,